Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another edition of Take 3. I'm Anand Narasimhan. With me, Rahul Shivshankar and Zakka Jacob. Gentlemen, today we're going to talk about something which is thousands of miles away, but can directly affect our lives. What's happening in West Asia, Iran versus Israel. What's your take?
Well, it's uncharted territory. I mean, we've not had a direct attack like this, which of course Iran has now done on Israel. And as far as Israel is concerned, I'm just paraphrasing what the ambassador said to me, that it's not a question of if, we will attack. We reserve the right to retaliate, which is true for all sovereign countries. The problem is we don't know in what shape or form that retaliation will be and what the fallout of that will be. Because it's one thing to take on, these proxies, these terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. And generally, history has shown us that whenever sovereign states are challenged by these proxies, I mean, yes, there is this whole business of asymmetric warfare and, death by 1,000 cuts and all of that. But ultimately, the state prevails. The sovereign state prevails. This is the first time since the creation of the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979, after the revolution, that you're going to have a sovereign versus sovereign fight. We've not had an Iran versus Israel direct attack so far. So we are pretty much in uncharted territory.
That region has seen war. It's not that Egypt has not attacked, Saudis have attacked before, and Israel has always battled. Now, even the ambassador was very on, and Israel, everybody would say the same thing, that we are battling 7 fronts.
Yeah.
That's what they would say. But the other thing is that they have the big brother America on their side, Israel. Now, America has said that we are going to put some limiters or riders on how much can you go after Iran. Now, what does that imply?
Well, look, first things first, while this is going to be at some point or the other direct conflict, again, to paraphrase the ambassador, the fact is that there is no land contiguity. So, beyond everything else except for ground invasion can be sort of contemplated. Now, there is one issue that we are not focusing on too much because we believe that it requires no focus because there is no capacity, which is the nuclear weapon capacity of Iran. Apparently, Iran can put together a nuclear weapon in about a week, 10 days. That's what is conventional sort of knowledge. Will that be tested by Israel, who might actually want to make a statement by targeting some of these sensitive military installations? You've already seen in this particular strike hypersonic weapons being used by Israel. So they sort of ratcheted up their technological sort of prowess. In April, they used stuff that...
You mean Iran?
Iran, sorry, which didn't really penetrate the Iron Dome. This time, you've seen visible evidence of military targets in Israel being hit. And apparently, there was also a missile that landed very close to the Mossad headquarters, about 500 meters from the Mossad headquarters or what have you. But the point is that Israel will now have to show that even if it wants to match Iran, it has to at least hit some of those military targets. Now, is the nuclear target in play? Their nuclear facilities in play? We don't know. And if it were, then there is obviously going to be this ballistic sort of, response. And, rockets, at the end of the day, I don't know if there are technologies out there that can actually neuter just about every rocket that is fired at you. I mean, almost 180 missiles
rockets,
and projectiles of different kinds were fired at Israel, and some did obviously hurt Israel. And now there are reports coming out that there is visibly quite a bit of damage, despite the American sort of outflanking presence. So, look, fundamentally, this is, as he was saying, an uncharted sort of territory for these two big players in West Asia. How this will sort of resolve itself is the question we need to focus on.
See, there is one which is immediate and that we see, that is Israel, Iran, the 7 fronts that had been opened, and also the Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, all of them backed by, state-backed by Iran. And Israel has been fighting them for a while. But there is this aggression with which they are saying, let's finish them off, finish them off, finish them off. And they will not go all this way to finish them off unless the Americans say, go ahead, finish them off, because it's in our interest too. But what happens, and as there is a grouping here of NATO powers, let's say that, there is a Russian Prime Minister who's there in Iran. There are the Chinese who are present here. Now, there is Iran's direct help with the kamikaze drones for Russia in the Ukraine war. So, whatever happens here, is there going to be an impact
Oh,
there
yeah,
in
of course.
Ukraine? Or is
course.
it back? Is it that they're saying let's shift the focus away from there so that there can be some settlement there, and let's put the attention, the world's attention here, so that whatever is settled there is then gets brushed under the carpet?
I'll take the America question first because I think it's an interesting time. Everything that Joe Biden has said he does not want Israel to do in the last 1 year since the October 7th attacks, Israel has gone and done exactly that. Whether it was attacking Hamas, whether it was killing the civilians, taking Rafah, attacking Hezbollah, invading Lebanon, everything that Biden said Israel should not be doing, we will not encourage it, they've gone ahead and done it. This, to my mind, shows either of two things, or perhaps even both. One is that the Israelis have made a calculation, which is an absolutely fair calculation, that this is a lame duck presidency. And it is a lame duck presidency. Mr. Biden's going to be out post-January. So they're really pushing the envelope there. The second is, with this close to an election, where the Jewish vote can be a critical factor, no candidate, no one vying to be president of the United States, neither party can afford to be seen as not backing Israel to the hilt. And Netanyahu knows this. And I think Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, sort of captured it. He said, this is a once in 50-year opportunity. If Israel really goes full throttle, they're even talking about regime change. I don't think it'll be that easy to change the Ayatollah regime, which has been there since 1979. But, well,
Yeah,
they're pushing the envelope.
I was speaking with the ambassador over on the Hindi channel. Two important things he said. First one he said is that we wanted to focus only on the Hamas. After October 7. On the 8th of October, who fired rockets at us? The Hezbollah did. Why did they do it? Again in April, Iran fired rockets at us. Why did they do it? So we were focusing only on Hamas, and whatever was happening there, we wouldn't have come this way had that not happened. That's one thing. Second, he said that now we are finding, Anand, that there was a far more diabolical plan than October 7, 2023 being planned by the Hezbollah, where they wanted to enter in thousands via underground routes. They had dug tunnels all the way down in that northern Israel, on that region, and they were going to pop up and then just take control of northern Israel. And the regime change part, Rahul, what he says is we don't want a regime change, but we are hoping the Iranians will throw down the Ayatollah Khomeini regime.
Iran has been around now for what, 45, 78, 79. So you do the math on that. They've been around a long time. I think like a boa constrictor, actually, the Americans have tried to sort of contain it with sanctions, created obvious pain for the people of Iran, but there hasn't been really an overthrow. Even at the worst of times, the last 1 or 2 years, when the women really came out, even that was sort of scotched. And there's nothing like a war to unite a country behind a leader. And many people say that the current occupant, Khamenei, he was always seen as a side moderate, including the president. And they were not seen as people who would perhaps take the bull by the horns. This was his opportunity to very quickly shake off that notion. Remember, Netanyahu is also a very unpopular prime minister.
Yes, he is.
Okay, and he's gone into this huge war with a lot of baggage back home. I mean, what's there to say that he actually might find himself out of work? I'm just saying. I mean, if you really want to talk about regime change, so I don't think
I think
is
somewhere
credible.
he is resigned to the fact that he will be out of work. But
wartime
the
president
Israeli
and gone.
polity is such
But-
that the opposition is part of the entire, cabinet war
exactly.
room.
So I don't think that the steps that are being taken by the Ayatollah in Iran are without a massive sort of, support from the Republican Guard and other parts of the establishment. It's a very, very layered political society. Don't forget that. I mean, Iran is not
Khamenei
Iraq.
himself
It's
believes
not
that
Syria.
Israel has infiltrated all these fronts.
Well, I mean, that's talk and there's talk. Israel till yesterday or day before yesterday was saying that we haven't been hit at all. We haven't even been tickled. But now we are seeing visible proof of, sufficient damage on the ground. So I think Israel also knows that, look, what we can realistically achieve is a degradation of Hezbollah. But Hezbollah is also not Hamas.
Yeah.
And we've just seen when the Israelis did cross over, a few
They were
body
ready.
bags. A few body bags came back, and apparently that was the largest number of body bags that have come back in a
the
single
recent
day
time.
in the last 1 year. So this is not an easy enterprise at all. This is a very, very difficult, tricky, new terrain that actually both sides are treading.
I'm also thinking, are you guys worried about that there could be some, impact, a ripple effect of it back home in Bharat?
I mean, even diplomatically, one of our biggest projects overseas is Chabahaar. You can kiss Chabahaar goodbye if there's going to be a direct war between Israel and Iran. We've invested for the last 30 years, ever since I started covering diplomacy, what they call the North-South International Corridor. Again, that corridor is not happening if there's going to be a full-fledged war between Israel and Iran. But on this whole business of regime change, I lived and worked in China, and for the last 70 years, they've been waiting for the Chinese people to overthrow the Communist Party of China. It hasn't happened, and I suspect, I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime. The last time America tried to regime change in Iraq and in Afghanistan, it didn't go particularly well. So it's not an easy thing, but having said that, I mean, Rahul's lived through 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell, and all of those East European communist states, it was just a matter of weeks. I mean, one after another, they fell like 9 pins. So the problem with repressed societies is this: when the head at the top goes, everything just crumbles, and it crumbles within a matter of days. So you never know. Even the Islamic Revolution that happened in 1979. I mean, the king. No one ever thought that the Persian king could be overthrown, but it happened in a matter of a few months. So, yes, while on the one hand I agree with Rahul, Netanyahu putting out this video, speaking to the Iranian people, saying, we need you to change your regime and so on, and we're with you. The history of the Jewish people and the Persian people, a lot of that is semantics and playing to the gallery and all that. But ultimately, I think, there is going to be definitive and visible military action in a way that Iran will also be compelled to respond again.
I'm just trying to understand, because where do things lie for us? Because both
Anand,
Iran
that's
and Israel are friends.
That we should quickly interrogate very quickly. Look, I mean, yes, there is diplomatic, stresses, but there's also an economic dimension. Indian exports, which could really get hit, because remember, if there is a conflagration, the Red Sea approach into, the Suez gets pretty much blocked off. Already, Indian exports are not going through that route, so it's getting a little more expensive. And I'll just give you a statistic. Exports to Europe, petroleum exports, account for 21% of India's overall petroleum product exports internationally. That pipeline will suddenly get squeezed, and we'll have to go around the Cape of Good Hope. Then the escalation also risks the progress of, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor.
Yeah, IMEC.
Yeah, so that's another problem, and China won't mind it actually. They actually don't want this corridor to get off the ground. So fundamentally, China is very happy if there is a massive battle and we all get squeezed out. And of course, you also have the Chabahaar port angle, which actually is not just about trade, etc. It's about strategic depth. We need to outflank Pakistan also. So if India is pushed into taking a position at some point down the line, there's going to be an issue.
War never is easy, and it's not cheap. It hurts both the nations, the aggressor and the defender on both sides. On that note, we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, closer home, politics, Maharashtra, ahead of the elections, what's happening within the Mahayuti? Are they playing good cop, bad cop, or is the signs of a rift there? Stay with us.